Rapa Nui, everyone. This is Dr. Dale Simpson coming into you from Rapa Nui. Right now I'm on the island's south coast in its contemporary stone quarry. This is where material is removed and processed so it can be used in things like roads and house construction and foundations of any type. So in short, this is a very important place for contemporary life because here is where all the stone comes from. I particularly like coming here because so much stone has been removed through excavation and explosions and bulldozing that it gives us a good idea of Rapa Nui's geological events. So here I have my little 1.5-meter stick that shows just the side of this deposit, and right away you're going to notice multiple volcanic events. You're going to see some layers that are pretty thick, some other that are a little bit thin, and those represent the different flows and their activity. Now the thicker ones probably represent much more volume and a viscosity coming out of a volcano much faster, where other ones maybe are just short-lived events that produced one lens of this sort of large cake. I call this the cake layer model, that really in Rapa Nui you can sort of go layer by layer and understand how the island was formed over 700,000 years. Geologists tell us that this area, it was a product of 12 volcanic events that were centered around 3 volcanic areas up north, which include Tangaroa and Puno Pao and Vaiohao. These areas created a lava which later created stones such as Hawaiianite and olivine basalt, types of stone that we find quite frequent in the Pacific and also on Rapa Nui. But I also like coming here because I see a direct connection between this contemporary site and archaeological sites that we find very close by. It seems that although we know in this contemporary period where the best stone is, so did the past people. The Rapa Nui of the past, they were geologists, and they probably explored multiple regions of this island to find the best stone. So sure enough, very close by, there are 21 sites that are also looking for similar stones that we're looking for in the contemporary period. So what that tells me that these geologists of the past also knew how to identify hard stone, how to identify stone that would serve their purpose for making stone tools or making construction stones. So again, sometimes we are living on the shoulders of giants, and they can tell us a lot that'll help us with our contemporary life. So what I want to do is start from this contemporary quarry, and we're going to walk some of these other mine sites and surface sites, and I'm going to show you how stone was removed from Rapa Nui's south coast from Hangapokura to Hangahahave. So lace up those shoes and let's go on a walk. Yorana. Yorana Korua, Dr. Dale from Rapa Nui. Right now I find myself right next to the ocean. This is a very cool place, man, between the juxtaposition of the land and the sea, where sort of the wind and waves meet, and it's such a beautiful natural landscape. Now normally I would be here to go fishing, but today I want to explore a little bit of this Southwest Coast mining complex, which we find between Ahopokura and Hahave, which is another bay just to the west here. But what I'm more interested in here is this sort of coastal area right here, which is a pretty unique geological landscape. Now we're talking about 12 volcanic flows that created some of this area, which is located on older shield flows, which are earlier eruptions that created sort of the base of Rapa Nui. And this became a real geological sort of hardware store for the Rapa Nui people, because not only did they mine some of the best stone, but they were also able to extract things like kiea, which is a mineral pigment used for painting, and also poro stones, which are beach-worn boulders that were very useful to make things like hammer stones, to reduce stone, or also construction stone. So what I'm going to try to do here is take my time and sort of walk almost 21 sites that I help document and describe for my PhD. But I've got to go a little bit slow because my mom absolutely hates when I'm climbing around sort of cliff areas, and I don't blame her. But this is the part of archaeology that's really fun, is sort of exploring these areas and coming into places that some people haven't been back to or visited for years. So we're just going to keep walking down here. Now, some of this area continues behind me, and there are more quarries that go to the west. But what I'm interested in doing is just sort of walking this little area, starting with this cave right here. So I just got to go nice and slow. Now you'll ultimately see some of these larger boulders that are coming from higher areas, that as this the waves and the wind are slowly breaking this down, sometimes large boulders are removed and they end up in piles closer to the ocean. And then the waves come in and they slowly affect and break down these larger boulders into smaller pieces. All right, so here we have a very interesting Keho cave structure. So you'll notice right away how this sort of stone was formed in very small, compact sort of flows, and it created this perfect raw material to make things like fish hooks and adzes and knives. But through time, these caves have been extended and excavated out as materials been removed from here that then can be used for stone tool making or sort of construction stone making. Now, when I first started studying here in 2014, this mine wasn't as large. So even within a period of 7 years, I've seen this cave widen out as contemporary people are taking out stone and as the natural processes of this cave are breaking it down. So we'll continue a little bit more. You can see some of how these flows were created. We can imagine some of those 12 flows from other areas of the north that came here and just put layer and layer and layer. But what we find that's super important here is this red material called kiea. This is the mineral pigment that's used to make things like paint. Paint could be used to paint the statues, the moai, to paint people. This kiea becomes something that's used for takona, which is a way the Rapa Nui people painted themselves to tell stories and to talk about the past. We also see kiea being used to paint artifacts and to give them certain color. So that's a very important resource here that we have on the south coast. Now we continue walking. Come on this side for a little bit with me. When you're doing this work, you always just got to take your time and go really slow. And you can see things, when you go too fast, you'll miss it. So here's another sort of area where fine-grained stone was also removed from. It created this big abscess right in here. But there's a lot of beautiful stone, very thin Keho stone, that could be used for a variety of purposes. Now look how beautiful this Keho is here, or excuse me, this kiea is here. Now this is probably really rich in iron and magnesium, and it's been oxidized, and it creates this very rich color. So we keep on walking, and you'll see little deposits, and then you'll come to an area like this, where you can really appreciate some of the fine, thin stone. And what it does is it creates a very thin profile. And you can imagine stone tools that you would make where having a profile like this available makes it very easy to make the stone tools afterwards. So that's another little section where they've been removing stone. But one of the most beautiful caves, I think, or mines, is this one. This is so rad. This site is such a cool site, man. And what we can see higher up here, this is all the debitage. This is all the smaller flakes that, as they're taking out larger cores and reducing them, it creates this process right here. And some areas are completely filled with this sort of debitage process. Yeah, up here we have a very beautiful source. So you can just see I've just been walking this sort of area, taking my time. And it continues all the way to other cave sites located here and up to there. You know, so you can imagine working here and thinking, okay, I've got the skinny stone that's coming from the mines. I have the kiea, which I could use for paint. And I can come to a lower area down here. These are all poro stones. These are all the beach boulders. And those then could be used in all their different works, from hammer stones and making beautiful foundation stones for houses. So again, the southwest coast is a very important place for the prehistory of Rapa Nui because it gave a whole bunch of variety of material. It also gave a beautiful view that you could work from. So points of emphasis here is the mining of the south coast, the keho, which are the thin stones that would be used to make stone tools, kiea, which is the red mineral pigment that's used for painting, and poro, which are the round beach boulders that become hammer stones and foundation stones. Irana Korua.